I won't say Lerone Murphy is a bad fighter. I will say he is, in fact, a boring fighter. He defeated Josh Emmett last night, and while it was a good win, it left a lot to be desired. And I think I got a little bit jaded after Lerone Murphy beat the snot out of Edson Barboza, because that last night is really more indicative of what Lerone Murphy usually brings to the table. His win over Josh Emmett was one that, you know, first of all, Josh Emmett is like 40 years old, so like it's a long time coming that Emmett gets dethroned, and he's been dethroned twice by Ilia Topuria and by Yair Rodriguez. You know, a one-dimensional fighter. You can see these types of matchups coming, and as featherweight continues to improve incrementally and better fighters come, I really can see how Josh Emmett and his style of fighting just won't do well for him, especially as he gets older. As he gets older, it's going to be, you know, much worse for him. But we're not talking about that right. We're talking about Lerone Murphy, right? We'll get into Josh Emmett in a minute here. Lerone Murphy, it was pretty much a flawless performance, okay? Yes, he got taken down a couple times. And while those takedowns really didn't do him justice, what he did manage to do was get back up. And he wasn't gassed in doing so. He did a really good job of using the wall walk to get back up, and despite being literally slammed from above the cage, you remember Josh Emmett lifting him up on the single and just dumping him. Aside from that, like, Lerone Murphy didn't sweat it, baby. In the first round, he even managed to get some really good damage on the face of Josh Emmett. You remember Josh Emmett just bleeding, and it looks way worse on pasty Josh Emmett, who is about as white as a white Crayola crayon. But you know, the blood in his face, you know, the elbows were nice from Lerone Murphy, but I just don't know if I'm still sold on him. He's undefeated. We've seen these undefeated UK guys come in, especially at featherweight with like Arnold Allen, and they get to the top and it's like, okay, you're undefeated, let's see what you're about, and then bam, Max Holloway. You know, like, as much as I like Lerone Murphy and I think he's a very good fighter, I still don't know much about him. I know he's crafty footwork, I know he's got really good striking, I know his elbows are good, and I also know he's hard to keep down. Taking him down, not quite as hard. But what does he bring to the table against, you know, almighty Arnold Allen, or Movsar Evloev, Yair Rodriguez, Diego Lopez, Alexander Volkanovski? Like, he's out there calling out Brian Ortega, and yeah, that's an option for him to fight. But like, at the same time, you look at the division. Actually, come on, guys, y'all come with me. You look over here at the division, and you got, I don't know why they got Evloev at the top. Oh, well, I guess, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Volkanovski, Evloev, who's like undefeated, but he's like legitimately fighting people like Diego Lopez, he's beat. Arnold Allen, he's beat. Aljamain Sterling, he's beat. Like, that's his last 3 wins. Dan Ige before that. So, you know, you look at like a Movsar Evloev or an Alexander Volkanovski, who, yeah, he's on a bad skid, but at the same time, he's still on a good run. Or Diego Lopez. Arnold Allen's fought actual good fighters. The question I really have with Lerone Murphy, and the issues that I really have with him, is like, he's very unproven. He hasn't shown us that he is, in fact, one of those fighters that's going to come out there and be a world beater. Like, yeah, he beat the daylights out of Edson Barboza, who's almost 40 years old in his own right. Or Barboza might even be 40 for all I know. But the idea is like, yeah, he's not an exciting fighter. His elbows were great. His get-ups are great. His footwork, you know, he's fighting off the back foot a lot of the time. And I guess against Josh Emmett, you have to do that. And he fought on the front foot against Barboza. But he is doing what's most important, and that's winning. And I feel like if he continues to do that and he continues to incrementally move up, like, I don't want to see him fight Brian Ortega next. Somebody who can't take somebody down. We're going to talk about that later in the show. But I don't want to watch him fight a Brian Ortega or somebody else that's like absolutely just washed. Like, let's see here. Another Josh Emmett. Like, a Youssef Zalal would be a fun fight, but that's a fight down for him. I think Zalal beats him, right? You know, Aljamain Sterling would be the best fight because I want to see how he would handle up against the grappling of a Movsar Evloev, Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopez, because we know all 3 of those guys can actually grapple. I know Brian Ortega's not going to be able to get him to the ground. Josh Emmett did, and sure, if Ortega does manage to get a takedown, great. But Ortega's not the answer. The dude's old. He's washed up. He's just not a good fighter anymore. That's not a fight for Lerone Murphy I want to see. Give me a Arnold Allen. You know, if we're gonna see a striker versus striker matchup, give me Arnold Allen. Otherwise, give me Aljamain Sterling. Now, Josh Emmett, unfortunately, his time has passed. Now, Josh Emmett's an incredibly exciting fighter. I mentioned earlier that, like, you know, he's a one-dimensional fighter, though. And that's really betrayed him as he's gotten to the top of this division. Sure, he's produced, like, electrifying knockouts against names like Bryce Mitchell and Michael Johnson. But then you look at when he fights actual good fighters. You know, Ilia Topuria, he's all there whiffing all night. And, like, he's incredibly tough. But, like, Topuria and Yair Rodriguez beat him. He really struggles when there's somebody that's slick with their striking. You know, we're not going to talk about the Jeremy Stephens fight just yet, but like since 2023, you know, a loss to Yair Rodriguez, Ilia Topuria's loss, and then Lerone Murphy. I just don't, at 40 years old, I don't know where Josh Emmett goes from here. You know what I mean? Like, he's good. He's a great fighter in terms of, like, longevity and stuff. But, like, the time has passed him by. Think about it for a second. Like, when he got knocked out by Jeremy Stephens and his orbital was crushed in, y'all remember how brutal of a knockout that was? It was a terribly brutal knockout. Jeremy Stephens, you know, he managed to come back after that for what? Let's take a look at his record too while we're here, right? Let's go ahead and go through these real quick. So we got the Jeremy Stephens, the Des Green fight, okay, split decision. That's UFC 210. We're 100 pay-per-views past that, 100 months. You know, the Ricardo Lamas knockout was fantastic. Who missed weight there? Who missed weight in this one? Let me see. Emmett was above the weight limit. Okay. Jeremy Stephens, that, and then he takes a year off, comes back, and the magnificent knockout of Michael Johnson after he was losing that fight, and that was his move to 155. I think nope, that was 145. What was he? I thought he moved weights. I don't know what. Oh, Michael Johnson was moving weight in that fight. That's right. Bersad Bektic, you know, Shane Burgos was a really good underrated fight. Dan Ige, he's beaten Calvin Kattar. But then he moves up and fights Yair Rodriguez, and Rodriguez manages to get him that triangle. Ilia Topuria, again, future champion. Now, Lerone Murphy, he's not quite the same, but he's still a slick striker like Topuria and Rodriguez has. And when you know what's coming, a jab and a big swinging, looping over right hand, you can really plan on that, draw that out, and punish that. Like Topuria, you remember Topuria would step in, especially at the end of that first round. There was a really beautiful combo where Topuria managed to get Emmett to overcommit on the big right hand. He's overcommitted, and you got Topuria landing like a 4-punch combination, body, head, and like it was beautiful. And it showed just how tough Josh Emmett is, sure. But at the same time, you're looking like, man, what is he going to do? And I believe like the time is now for serious considerment of retirement for Emmett. As much as I like him and as electrifying as he's been, like, he's 40 years old. The dude's an old man in terms of this sport. It's time to go. Let's free up the spot for somebody else in featherweight, baby. And I know you got to be competitive. And like, I'm not going to give my spot up that I've earned. Like Josh Emmett, whatever he comes out ranked on Tuesday, he's earned every bit of that. Like top 15, he'll be in the top 15. He's earned every bit of it. But at the same time, you got to know, like, it's a young man's game. It's like any other sport. Like, young athletes are going to thrive, whereas 40-year-olds generally don't. There's very few LeBron James and Tom Brady's of the world. There's very few Glover Teixeiras of the world, right? And Josh Emmett, I don't think he's going to be one of them because he's just so one-dimensional. I fully expect co-main events to be nearly as consequential as the main event, but we're not there. We're not getting that, and it's kind of sad, honestly. Chang Ho Lee, the Korean Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think that was a very, very pretentious thing for them to push upon Chang Ho Lee. He fought Cortavius Ramos, which, you know, are you not entertained as his nickname? Not a very good fighter, you know. Chang Ho Lee coming in off the road to UFC series is the UFC's really big push into the Eastern Asian market, and I think that's going to be something we'll see more of. Is more of the South Korean, the Japanese, and you'll see a lot of the Chinese fighters coming up through here soon. But what I really thought Chang Ho Lee, what was unfair about what he is getting is like this comparison to Khabib, and he mentioned like, I'm a Korean Khabib. He might have mentioned that leading up to this, but like even in the post fight, he's like, I want to be somebody different. I want y'all to see me as somebody different. And this fight was much better than his last against Zhao Long. That was a split decision, but this one, like, he managed to get the knockout in the second round, which was nice of him. But Ramos really did a good job of like just muscling out of positions. And if we're comparing you to Khabib, you're going to get compared unfairly, as Khabib's probably the most dominant grappler the UFC's ever seen. I mean, limited, but that's an argument for another day, guys. Please give me some credit here. But Lee, what he really showed me was like, he's okay with adversity in a fight. When something doesn't go his way, he's not just going to give up. And that's a really promising thing you want to see from a prospect like that. He is, of course, young. He is, what is he? 30 years old, so not so young, maybe, a middleweight fighter. Not middleweight. What am I saying? A bantamweight fighter. Good Lord. Can you imagine Chang Ho Lee fighting Dricus du Plessis? Oof. But he really did have a hard time keeping his position. But once he did hurt Cortavius, like, Chang Ho Lee really started to pour it on, and that second round knockout was just, he managed to hurt his opponent, and that's really all you can ask for a guy like that. Get in there, hurt your opponent, and continue the game, and he did that. So as critical as I'm being of him, he's a 30-year-old bantamweight. You got to be better than that at this stage if you want to compete in the best division the UFC has to offer. Like, that's not going to do you any favors against Merab Dvalishvili or Umar Nurmagomedov. It's not. A Davison Figueiredo feast on a guy like that. But if he can continue to get better, and at 30, like, how much better can you get? If he can continue to get better, like, man, you got a decent future ahead of you, top 15, but I don't know if this guy's really championship material. Speaking of not knowing if someone's championship material, Brad Tavares smashed out Gerald Meerschaert III. Now, we love GM3 here. I am a big GM3 fan. He's such a weird and unique fighter that he's always intriguing to watch. But going into this fight, one thing was for sure. Gerald Meerschaert can't get the takedown. Brad Tavares is really good at not being taken down. GM3's whole game is predicated on getting you to the ground. He's not going to get Brad Tavares to the ground, is he? Nope. Did not do such a thing. Tavares managed to stuff every single takedown. And while Gerald Meerschaert did have some moments of controlling him along the fence, he never really was effective. And Gerald Meerschaert's striking is not very good. I'm just going to be honest. He has some good things he does. He has some really good jabs, But I don't think Gerald Meerschaert is the one that's going to go out there and outstrike Brad Tavares. And in fact, no, he made Brad Tavares look like a power puncher in this fight. His head snapped back the whole time, and just wasn't a good look for Gerald Meerschaert. But I mean, that's the kind of fight that he's going to get at this age. He's not going to be a ranked fighter for any longer. Tavares is in the same boat, kind of. I don't see anything like that happening for them. But that fight was very, very odd. I got no. It was a Brad Tavares stuffing takedowns from a takedown artist fight. Ode Osborne had a really vicious left hook and ground and pound from Louis Guruli, but he just stepped off the back foot, and he's southpaw, so he left cross or left hook, you want to call it, and just landed flush with Guruli and put his lights out. Looked at the ref like, hey, I don't want to punch him, but then, started to because he had to, and man, it was just a beautiful knockout. Torres Finney got a win over Robert Valentin in a middleweight bout. Finney's a wrestler, man, and he just wrestled. He was very Muhammad Mokaev-like, and people weren't fans of it. So, he got booed in the apex. Oof, right? Like, it's a bad look for him. But, 11-0, no damage. Tony Weeks, that's that guy that the referee from boxing that reffed the Badu Jack fight, where Badu Jack had that giant cut across his face right there, and he was like bloody, and he was like very like his whole shirt was bloody just because it was massive cut. He gave it three rounds to none to Valentin based off of damage, and I'm like, people were criticizing him for like, why is that? And that's why we got the split decision. But Tony Weeks might have been right. Torres Finney didn't do anything with it. He got booed at the apex. Probably deserved, honestly. Probably deserved, man. Who else? Diana Balbita lost to Dion Barboza with an arm triangle. Balbita's just not active enough. She didn't fight enough. Reese McKee managed to get a decent doctor stoppage over Danielle Frunza. Good to see Reese McKee back. Loma Luke Boomy beat up Estela Nunez, and it was like Estela was like mad that she lost. It was very, very funny because Loma Luke Boomy looked like she was supposed to win that. Speaking of, why won't they book Loma Luke Boomy with Kong Wang like 120? I mean, I get Luke Boomy is like super small, should be an atomweight, but that would be a fun fight. Victor Henry managed to get a win. That was a really good event, a really good fight. Pedro Falco. Henry's just great with the volume, and it's more of that here. Martin Boudet beat Uran Satyel Baldiev. Yeah, I'm not getting that one right, boys. The unanimous decision. Short notice fight. It was supposed to be Kennedy Nzechukwu. And then Salida Alencar defeated Vanessa Demopoulos. Okay, whatevs. But yeah, decent. I didn't hate the card necessarily like some people did. I can see why it was boring, You did have 2-3 really boring fights, but like at the same time you had Victor Henry, Loma Luke Boomy looked okay. Finney sucked. Ode Osborne looked good. Kang Ho Lee got him a win. It wasn't the worst event. Everybody's calling it the worst, but it was very par of the course for what we see with the UFC Apex. So guys, look, if you enjoy the show, please, boom, right here is the playlist. If you follow that playlist, you can get all of the shows, all the episodes as they come out, or just subscribe, subscribe and say, hey, you're a good guy, I like you. And but this playlist here is all MMA content, all MMA show. You will love it if you love this show.